Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Always, it's good to be with you. And where I am right now, just because we've started this recording, the sun has come out. Just because we're doing this, I'm sure. Phoebe, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning and greetings to all of you, Graham, Mohammed. Nice to be in company.
Ahmed, good to be with you. How are you today?
I'm feeling really great and good to see you again. Another week, another episode.
In another episode of the Leadership Challenge Middle East. We've got to keep mentioning this, so we want people to know that this program is the most widely recognized globally for leadership development. It's been around for 40 years. I started doing this when I was a baby, and so it's now 40 years. Anybody believes that, they're on the wrong channel. So we're here to talk about leadership because we want you, everybody who's listening to us, to become a better leader. Leaders are always learning, and that includes me and the other two gentlemen, wise gentlemen who are with us today. Phoebe is so wise that I'm going to flick past this to him and say, Phoebe, you know what flick passing is? It's a bit of a football term when you're using your hands to play the game. And rather than the feet, which is the other football. So, Phoebe, I want you to take the lead today. What should we talk about?
I was yesterday reading a LinkedIn post by a connection. So it was about, recognition, performance, rewards, which happens in workplace. And one of the concern was, when rewards are not given on time, or rewards are not, performance is not rewarded, what happens in a workplace context? The challenges which we may experience when people who have done their work are not recognized, or people in the organizational hierarchy. And many people in these days refer them as leaders in organization, not see and acknowledge the people who are performing and what morale and what kind of impact it may have on workplace. So that is my thought process, and want to bring it to all of us to have a discussion. And along with that, Mohammed mentioned that there are three types of recognition. One is acknowledge, another is reward, and third one is award. So my thought process is to inquire with all of us the leadership imperative in that space. How does that sound, Graham?
Phoebe, let me just make this clear right up front. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course they are recognized. Every month they are recognized. The finance department does a little check and runs, and yes, the name is there, and that's how much we're going to pay them. And they send the money to the bank, and they send a notice to the bank, sends a notice to the person saying you've got that money in your bank account. We're recognizing them every month. How much we that, or sometimes once a fortnight. I don't mind. Sometimes it's different with either organization. They're being recognized. They're being paid. What else do they want?
Yeah, that is I acknowledge that. I just want to bring the voice of Mohammed also to pick his brain at this point of time. Mohammed.
Yeah,
Right,
but let me say to Graham, by sending that amount of money, you are buying their presence, not their productivity. And productivity and high performance has another currency, and that currency is not money, not physical rewards, but your presence as a leader. And that's, I think, why we are here today.
all right. We want to. Yes, okay. Let me share on the Middle East, and it was shared with me quite some years ago by the man who was running the ministry department, big department for one of the Emirates in the UAE. And I'd been coaching this gentleman, and we got to the point of in one session of talking about the annual recognition for performance. And he said one of his gentlemen on the staff who had all the boxes ticked for, yes, he's done everything the right way. He's met requirements. And so this person came and said to him, well, where's my bonus? And the gentleman I was coaching said to him, where is the work that you've done beyond what you're required to do? You have paid for the work that you are required to do. That's what we do. That's why you come here, you do what you're required to do, and you are paid. That's the deal. When you go beyond that, then we will look at bonuses. But at the moment, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and so we pay you. So how do we get people to go beyond?
Very good. Phoebe?
Yeah, go ahead, Mohammed. I will follow that.
Yes, I was going to say that it's true, actually. We are paid for being at work and doing a checklist of jobs and tasks to meet the requirement of the company. The business wants us, not because we are part of the family. They want us, they need us because we are working to get them some reward. So it's a fair deal. And then why are we looking for recognition and this and extra rewards? It is because we are human beings. We are not machines. You don't put fuel in one side of us and we give you outcome on the other side. We are a number of emotions, and there are drives for us. Okay, what drives us is more than money. Statistics show that they did on a large sample of people in America, and what drives you for work. Guess what was the rank of money? It was number 7. It was number 7. And one of the things at the top were meaning, belonging to the place, belonging to a community, feeling that I have a value. These came at number 1, and yet who can pay for that? The payment is not money. The leader can pay for that with his own way of leading his team. All right. So the 5 practices of the leadership challenge actually answer that. They are a very good model for what we get in return, or actually not in return, as a drive to go forward with full motivation and full aspiration.
I just like to bring this a bit more to the audience attention. In the book, The Leadership Challenge, one of the basics practice which Kosus and Posner call is encourage the heart. And one of the 5 practices of exemplary leadership. Now, I want to ask, in your experience, what does it look like when a leader genuinely acknowledges someone's contribution?
Well, let me answer that, if I may. It was firstly by saying this, and when I'm running workshops when I'm with people talking about how you like to be recognized, and I say, if it's a monetary benefit, if you're given, let's just say, some money that you can, as a bonus for the good work that you've done the last month or for a particular thing that you've done, and maybe it's enough for you to take the family out to dinner, or maybe it's enough for you to take the family away for a weekend at a resort. I don't know. My question then is, how long do you remember this? How long? And the answer is until the dinner is over at the restaurant, or until we've come home from the long weekend. Yes, that's likely what it is. But if the appreciation is given in another way, which has more meaning, that is, it's not financial. This then affects the heart. It touches the heart. And that's when we get real. This is absolutely coming very much to the point that Mohammed was making about the surveys that have done in the US, where they say money is not number one. Money is not number one. We know, of course, we need money to pay the rent and get those things done, of course. But what really is important is how we recognize those people, how we value the heart that's being delivered for the work that they produce. That is what is critical, not the money. And Mohammed makes that point really, really well. So, Mohammed, over to you. What do you think?
Yes. So let me bring a scene from my industry, which is occupational health and safety. It is known that there are a number of compliances, in fact, many. They are as many things that you come across in your department, in your niche. You need to, there is a long list of do's and don'ts. You need to avoid doing this. You must do this. You must wear your gears. You must not drive fast, etc. These are compliances, and they are too many. All right, and there are people who violate, and there are people who comply. People who violate, the consequence, let me call that consequence of their acts, awaits them. Okay, like if you do not wear your glasses in the workshop where you should, and the sign says so, and you're spotted by a law enforcement or anyone, you are, prone to be disciplined. Maybe the discipline starts with just a notice, verbal, then, written, then whatever. But you can expect that. However, when you comply, you wear your gears fully, you follow the company's rule, you are actually saving yourself and the people around you and saving the company's assets. Guess what? You do not expect a consequence. So I know what is the consequence. And when you do that, when you say to people, all right, we need to recognize this guy for fully complying, and he's doing it constantly. What is the usual answer? It is part of his job. Why should we do that? We are paying him to do that. Okay, you're not paying him to get warnings anyway, and yet you are showing the consequence. So the nature of human, when they see the negative consequences, all right, they will be more alert for that. However, they will not be encouraged to do a better job if you stop recognizing, and recognition here is just acknowledging. You don't have to bring him to the office, take pictures with him, and put him on the news, because 1,000 other employees are wearing their gears outside. You need to acknowledge them, all right? An acknowledgement in Leadership Challenge is as simple as a shared vision session. It's as simple as enabling others to act, and the list goes on.
Can I just pick up on that a little bit? I really think that if we say to people, this is what is required of you, and the team know what their requirements are in order to deliver. I'm following up the point that you made about this is the requirements from health and safety. And if we just say there's a team of 6 people and they all meet the standards that are set out and the requirements that they're supposed to do, I'm going to say this, that if I was their leader, that I would probably be, no, more than probably, I think I would be saying in the monthly meeting, I just want to acknowledge that everybody has done what was required of them in the last month. And that's what makes this department so successful, because everybody does what is required. And I want to thank each of you for doing that. So what am I doing? Thanking everybody for doing their job, right? I'm not singling out necessarily one person, because they've all done what's required of them. And I'm not just going to say, well, you've done your job, you're being paid. No, I'm going to make a point in terms of the meeting and what's happening there of saying everybody has done that. This is fantastic. This is what is required of us to be successful every month. Now, you might also add on to that and say, we could look for ways of improving even further. So what do you think? And get them individually to come up with other things that they might want to do. So, yeah, I understand that we can simply say, well, you've done your job, that's what's required. Okay, but we can acknowledge, can't we, that the group has done everything that's required. There were no problems, and you're particularly highlighting an area there that's important. When we look at let's look at the bigger picture and say, look, let's look at a pilot in an airline who does his job. And if that airline has got 400 pilots and they all do their job, there's a pretty good chance that there's not going to be any safety issues or any whatever problems. And I'll be sure that the airline will be proud of their safety record and would be saying the safety record is because all of our pilots, all of our safety people at every level are doing their job, and that's fantastic. Right?
I just want to also highlight this is something which in the leadership challenge, James Kuzuz and Barry Posner says, encouragement is a serious business. And quite often, what I see in workplaces is people in the leadership roles find it challenging. Yeah, we may be doing the tick mark exercise of having the end of the year survey or pulse survey to know what is happening in the workplace. Now, I just want to dig deeper. Why do you think some leaders struggle with this practice? That is, considering encouragement is serious business. What might be the thought process and assumptions playing out there?
I know Mohammed's got a great answer, but let me just say this one. I had a senior executive in front of the staff some years ago say, we don't need to tell people they've done a good job. They know when they've done a good job. No, not so. They need oh. And I believe that in this particular case, this man at a senior level, he'd probably never been given encouragement as he was moving forward. I didn't get it, so why should I give it to you? Some executives, and I have had one executive at least at a senior level, when I say senior, he was group CEO, and he said, encourage the heart I find very difficult. I've got to work on that. I find it difficult to recognize. But when you work on it, it's not hard, and you get really, really good results. So, Mohammed, what might you think is some reasons why some people find it difficult?
Well, again, I always say that when they promote you and a position where you need to lead people, the word is lead, you cannot do this like you were doing before when you were not promoted. You had your cubicle, you had your tasks, you were doing things directly with the results, whether they are financial, mechanical, whatever. You were a worker that doing the job. Then they promoted you, they separated you from all the physical outcomes, and they put you in charge of a number of people who will do that. Now, it is not your job to give them money, because that is the finance department will give them money. That's not your job, and it's not your job to do the job that they are doing. You're not doing that. So the only thing you're left with is to lead the people to generate the results that you were doing once before. So your job is people, and driving people is not like driving your PC, driving any machine out there and there, or any system. It requires understanding people, and you as a leader are one of those people who was recognized and promoted once before. So you already know what makes you motivated. You already know that you were promoted because someone up there recognized you and noticed your performance and rewarded you. So uh, you have been through this before as a leader. You cannot say, I don't know how to recognize people, because you are their leader for the same reason. You were recognized before. So people are different. And I want to add one thing. People are different. So I have 5 children. If I want to reward them for their good deeds, good behavior, do I give them the same? Do I give the girls the same as the boys? Do I give the younger ones the same as the older ones? The maturity level, it's different. And instead of this being so complicated, I need to give individual attention. Guess what? It gets really fun, because I know I just came from my conference in Jordan. I brought the daughters what they like, some beauty things, and I get their mother something else, which I won't say. Okay, it has to do with authentic Eastern sweets, Arabic sweets, and the boys, of course, will like something else, and henceforth. And I'm very happy that I know what they like, and they are driven, they are happy, they will do the job anyway. If you get,
Yeah.
yeah. That's great.
It is really important, and it's not doing the same thing for everyone. If you can personalize the recognition, that's
Yes,
critical.
that's
Well,
the word.
make it right for that person. And we know 98% of people say they perform at their best when they are given encouragement, when they're recognized. And there are so many ways of doing this. At the start of this conversation, I said, well, if you take people out to, or give them money to go to a dinner or a weekend away, they'll remember it just for the time of that experience. But if you send a handwritten note, and we've talked about this before, if you find a unique way to recognize the good things that they've done, they will remember that. But I want to come back before we wrap this up to talk about the point that was mentioned earlier. And this was about connecting people with the reason for them being there. And that is finding their passion for what they're doing. And then they're going to be more connected and wanting to do the things that are required, not just to get the pay at the end of the month, but to be feeling that they are valued, they are doing something that intrinsically for them brings a reward. Intrinsically, that is, they do something and they know for themselves, that's why I come to work. I may not get any recognition, but I know that that's what I'm here for. So let's talk about that for a moment in terms of recognition internally for the good things that we do. And then, by the way, when they're given recognition, on top of what that inner feeling is, how much more motivated they're going to be.
This remind me an instance in one of my workplace in the past. We introduced something called, staff member can acknowledge other staff members. So in a group, a public meeting. So for example, that happens every week. So this week, I'm saying like, Mohammed, you have done a fantastic work. This is what you have done, and this is how it has impacted. So the staff member, whoever who want to acknowledge someone can come forward and say that. And the process leads to, the people feeling valued, as Graham just mentioned, the value of, and it is also being recognized by specifically mentioning what the value the person is bringing and the unique contribution. And what I have experienced, for example, when someone acknowledged what I have done is, it created a internal motivation and drive, improving the morale as well as the willingness to contribute more. So I think that people, when they are acknowledged at work, and that acknowledgement, and I am also remembering a podcast in which I listened. The Pepsi CEO Indira Nooyi saying that she goes to the home of some of her reportees whenever she's in a country and meet the parents of the respective person working with her and say that thank you for bringing Mr. X or Mrs. X to the world, and the way in which that person is supporting and bringing change. And a letter is given to the parents in person, and and she was saying that sometimes, for example, the respective member is planning to move out, and when they are discussing with the parents, they will ask, you have a fantastic leader in your organization, why you want to leave and to another organization. So the closeness created and the connection between people is, I will say, very, very deep, creating, for example, loyalty between the team and the leader in workplace quite often.
Yes, absolutely.
Maybe one line I will say, in training, we have a rule that in the classroom, there are people who are very smart, actually, and probably ahead of their peers. You will do some activities, but these activities is common for everyone, but the smartest ones are not engaging. This is not driving them. So it is the duty, according to even quality assurance in education, is the duty of the teacher or the trainer at one point in the course or in the session to raise what we call the difficult question. You pose a difficult question, and that difficult question is so difficult that it intrigues the the more advanced ones or the more intelligent ones, and it will make them pop out of the crowd and say, I have the answer. And actually, it was not about the answer. It was about to engage and acknowledge someone who was not acknowledged by the normal, usual, common, games and gifts, and that this is not rewarding him. He wants something to challenge him. And guess what? You heard it. In the 5 leadership practices, we have challenge the process. When a leader goes out there and challenges them, you know what happens to the room, you know what happens to the team. And the least and the most silent one, least acknowledged ones will pop up and say, what a workplace, what a leader I am working. He speaks to me. Actually, he wasn't. He was trying to acknowledge the deeper meaning in each one of us. Enough for that. And now the leader, I think, knows what to do.
This is what leaders do, isn't it? I believe we are here to bring out the best in the people that we are leading. That's what we're here for. Of course, we're to have the vision and show them where we're going and take. Of course, I understand that. That's a primary part of it. But leaders are the best leaders build a team of engaged people who are there and who want to perform at their best. And they will receive encouragement along the way. And if there's issues of having to improve that or change it, then on a monthly basis, when you're having a discussion with them, you're going to bring it up and say, gosh, we need to improve on this. But if we as leaders can bring out the best in the people that we are leading, what a better world this is going to be, because we're bringing out the best in everybody. We are not managing them, we are leading them. And that's the difference. And leadership is a behavior. It's not a set of rules, it's a behavior. And this is what leaders simply do to get the best from everybody. And encouraging and acknowledging is critical for that. Phoebe, I'll give you a minute to wrap this up. We're nearly finished.
Yeah,
I acknowledge.
Yeah, before wrapping, I just want to inform our viewers and listeners. Sometimes, yes, I'm new to the leadership role. How can I learn more about that? And that is where we are here. We can support you in your leadership journey. And as I mentioned, we started with that LinkedIn post, which I mentioned. And one of the challenge was some leaders are not having that awareness. As the saying goes like this, knowledge brings awareness and awareness breeds potential. And sometimes, yes, I reach the leadership role within my organization hierarchically, but I need support, I need help. How can I make the best out of my role? What can I do to bring the leadership challenge as we have the 5 practices, model the way, inspire a shared vision, challenge the process, encourage the heart. So how can we help in that process? And that is what I just want to highlight. We are here to support you in your transition, and that make the workplace more engaged. So I just want to ask this final question to all of you. What one practical step leaders can take this week to encourage the heart?
That is the question. That is the difficult question.
Let's do it simply. I'll give you a simple one. At the end of the day, simply say to the people as they're leaving, thank you for everything you did today. They can also send handwritten notes. We've talked about this before, but even that simple thank you.
Wow.
Mohammed.
So how do we recognize our viewers and those who reach to this stage? Phoebe, floor is yours.
Yeah. So again, my thought process is don't wait for big milestones. Celebrate progress and effort along the way. So,
and we
want to acknowledge for you all visiting us, viewing us, subscribing to our content. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Pibby. Thank you, Mohammed. I will look forward, as I always do, to being with you. And everybody else will be looking forward to being with us, inshallah, next week at the same time. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week ahead.
Thank you. See you.